The mist clung to the pines of Blackwater Falls State Park, a spectral shroud that muffled the sounds of the forest. Ranger Emily Carter squinted, her breath misting in the chill air as she scanned the trail. It was late October, and the park, usually bustling with hikers and campers, was eerily deserted. A sense of unease settled over her, a prickling awareness that something was profoundly wrong. The first sign had been the abandoned campsite. A neatly packed tent, a half-eaten meal, a fire pit that had burned out hours ago, all suggesting a hasty departure. But there was no sign of the camper, a young woman named Sarah Jenkins, who had checked in 3 days prior. Emily had initially dismissed it as a simple case of someone changing their plans. But then came the second disappearance. A middle-aged hiker named Thomas Bellwether, reported missing by his worried wife. His trail had gone cold deep within the park's dense interior. The local sheriff, a gruff veteran named Frank Miller, had arrived with a team of deputies. They'd combed the trails, searched the campsites, and even deployed a search and rescue dog. But the forest held its secrets close. Emily found herself drawn to the isolated trails, the places where the shadows deepened and the silence pressed in. She felt a presence, an unseen watcher, lurking just beyond the veil of the trees. The feeling was visceral, a cold dread that settled in her bones. The park's history was rich with folklore, tales of ancient spirits and forgotten rituals. The local legends spoke of a dark presence that dwelled in the heart of the wilderness, a being that demanded sacrifices. Emily had always dismissed these stories as harmless superstition, but now they echoed in her mind with a chilling resonance. Sheriff Miller, a man of logic and pragmatism, focused on the practical aspects of the investigation. He suspected a predator, a human killer who had found a hunting ground in the secluded park. He ordered a thorough forensic sweep of the abandoned campsite and the last known location of Thomas Bellwether. The first clue arrived in the form of a faint, almost imperceptible scent detected by the search dog, a metallic tang that lingered in the air near a secluded waterfall. The scent was old, but it was unmistakable. Blood. The discovery sent a jolt of fear through the investigation team. The search intensified, the rangers and deputies pushing deeper into the park's labyrinthine trails. Emily, with her intimate knowledge of the park's terrain, led the way, her senses heightened, her eyes scanning every shadow, every rustle of leaves. She found herself drawn to a hidden clearing, a place where the sunlight barely penetrated the dense canopy. The air was heavy, thick with a strange, almost cloying sweetness. In the center of the clearing, a circle of stones formed a crude altar. The sight made her breath catch in her throat. The stones were stained a dark, reddish-brown, and scattered around them were strange symbols, etched into the earth with a sharp instrument. They were unfamiliar, ancient, and deeply unsettling. Sheriff Miller arrived, his face grim. He recognized the symbols from old case files, a series of unsolved disappearances that had plagued the region decades ago. They were the marks of a ritualistic killer, a predator who preyed on the vulnerable, who sought something beyond the simple act of murder. The investigation took a dark turn. The focus shifted from a simple search for missing persons to a hunt for a cold-blooded killer, a being who seemed to operate outside the boundaries of human understanding. Emily found herself haunted by the images of the clearing, the stained stones, the strange symbols. She researched the park's history, delving into the local folklore, searching for clues in the old tales. She discovered stories of a reclusive hermit who had lived in the park decades ago, a man rumored to practice dark rituals. The hermit had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only whispers and shadows. Emily wondered if he was the key, if his dark legacy had somehow survived, if his evil had found a new vessel as the days turned into nights. The atmosphere in the park grew heavier, the sense of dread intensifying. The rangers and deputies moved with a heightened awareness, their eyes constantly scanning the shadows, their ears straining for any sound. Emily began to notice subtle changes in the park, small details that seemed out of place. A broken twig arranged in a strange pattern, a rock moved from its natural position, a faint, metallic scent that lingered in the air. She realized that the killer was watching them, playing a game of cat and mouse, leaving subtle clues, taunting them with his presence. He was a master of the wilderness, a creature of the shadows, and he knew the park better than anyone. One night, as a storm raged, Emily found herself drawn to the clearing once more. The wind howled through the trees, the rain lashed against the ground, and the darkness was absolute. She felt a presence, a cold, malevolent energy that seemed to emanate from the stones. She saw a figure, a dark silhouette against the backdrop of the storm, moving among the trees. He was a giant, his movements fluid and silent. He carried something in his hand, a long, curved blade that gleamed in the flashes of lightning. Emily followed him, her heart pounding in her chest, her senses heightened. She moved like a shadow, her footsteps muffled by the storm, her eyes fixed on the figure ahead. He led her deeper into the park, to a hidden cave, a place where the darkness was absolute. She heard a sound, a faint whimper, and then a sickening thud. She entered the cave, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. She saw him, the figure, standing over a body, a young man, his eyes wide with terror. The blade in his hand was dripping with blood. The man turned, his face hidden in the shadows, his eyes glowing with an unholy light. He raised the blade, and Emily knew that she had found the killer. A chase ensued, the killer using his knowledge of the park's terrain to evade capture. Emily followed, driven by a need to stop this evil. The chase led them to the highest point in the park, a cliff overlooking the falls. The storm raged around them, the wind whipping at their clothes, the rain blinding their eyes. The killer turned, his face revealed in a flash of lightning. It was a face twisted with hatred, a face that reflected the darkness within. He lunged, the blade flashing in the storm. Emily fought back, her training kicking in, her adrenaline surging. She was no match for his strength, but she was determined to stop him. The fight was brutal, desperate. Struggle on the edge of the cliff. The killer's eyes showed a mad glee as he tried to end Emily's life. With a final surge of strength, Emily managed to disarm the killer. He stumbled, losing his footing on the slick rock, and plunged over the cliff, his scream lost in the roar of the falls. The storm began to subside, the rain slowing to a drizzle, the wind dying down. Emily stood on the edge of the cliff, her breath ragged, her body trembling. She had stopped the killer, but the darkness he represented still lingered in the air, a stain that would forever mark the park. The investigation concluded. The killer's body recovered from the base of the falls. The strange symbols, the ritualistic nature of the murders, remained a mystery. Darkness lurked beneath the surface of the human psyche. Emily Carter, forever changed by her experience, continued her work as a park ranger, but she would never forget the bloodstains, the eerie silence of the forest, the presence of the killer. The park, once a place of beauty and tranquility, had now become a legend of the darkness that could dwell in the heart of nature and in the heart of man.